Welcome to this explainer. So today we're going to completely change how you look at your favorite books. Because you see, reading the literal words on a page, that's really only part of the magic. The truth is, when we apply different contexts, we radically shift our reading perspectives. It's like unlocking entirely new dimensions of a story that we probably would have completely missed otherwise. All right, let's dive right in and actually challenge how we normally read. I mean, most of the time, we just read the words, we follow the plot, and we move on, right? But since surface level reading is so hyper focused on just the text, we end up missing out on all that rich, hidden background information. And that's the stuff that actually explains why things happen in a book. The real magic? It's the story behind the story. Think about this for a second. If you wrote a story today, right now, how much of your own life would naturally end up in it? I mean, think about your closest friends, your current struggles with daily stuff or work, your absolute biggest dreams. Your personal life would totally bleed into your ideas. Well, guess what? That is exactly how famous authors write too. They don't write in a vacuum. They write straight from their own lived experiences. Section 1. The three pairs of glasses. Viewing context. To actually spot these hidden details and really understand how context shifts our reading perspectives, we can use this brilliant visual metaphor of putting on three different pairs of invisible glasses. Our very first lens is biographical context. Basically, this means we're looking specifically at the author's own life. And this matters so much because authors often use their personal experiences as the ultimate inspiration for their characters and plots. When you put on these specific glasses, a simple fictional story suddenly transforms into a window into the author's deepest personal struggles and memories. Okay, now let's zoom out a bit. Our second lens is historical context. This one shows us how major eras, global events, wars, or, even new inventions completely change the types of problems characters have to solve. A character's decisions just make a whole lot more sense when you realize, oh wow, they're living through a massive historical crisis. And that brings us to the third pair of glasses, which reveals the sociocultural context. This lens really highlights what a specific community considers normal. It shows us how different groups interact and why characters might feel, well, immense pressure from society's unwritten rules or traditions to act a certain way. Honestly, these three lenses, biographical, historical, and sociocultural, are basically the master keys to unlocking the true depth of literally any text. Section 2. The Double Life of Raphael, a fascinating case study. So if we firmly put on our biographical context glasses, we start to uncover this guy's incredible double life. On one hand, you've got this strict, practical, super serious businessman making a living and handling corporate duties during the day. But contrast that against the other side, a passionate multilingual artist who just had this amazing brain for languages, writing beautiful poetry in both English and Spanish at night. When we read his work, we absolutely have to remember this intense internal tug of war. Section 3. History shapes the author. The impact of time. You see, we can't just look at his personal life in a vacuum, right? Because a person is always a product of their time. The absolute crucial point here is this one specific detail. Raphael was born in the year 1915. Now, that is not just some random piece of trivia, it's literally the key that unlocks his entire body of work. So why does 1915 matter so much? Well, because during this specific time, the Philippines was under American colonial rule. It was this intense era where the country was actively trying to figure out its own identity. And that environment? It sparked a massive, growing sense of national pride and a deep collective desire for a true Filipino identity. Raphael grew up breathing in this powerful atmosphere of awakening and resistance. Knowing this timeline helps us completely understand his most famous work. Without that historical context, his celebrated poem, like the Malave, might just read like a nice piece of writing. But with our historical glasses on, we see it for what it truly is, a really powerful, urgent declaration of Filipino strength, independence, and pride. The context completely shifts our reading perspective, from just looking at a simple poem to experiencing a monumental cultural anthem. Section 4. Balancing duty and passion, the daily struggle. Now, it wasn't just the grand, sweeping narrative of history that shaped Raphael's voice. It was also his daily, deeply personal struggle to balance those professional obligations with his creative soul. And I want you to think about your own double life for a second. On one side, you've got your have-to duties, right? Going to school, tackling daily chores, maybe taking care of siblings. But on the other side, you have your love to passions: gaming, drawing, dancing, playing sports. It is incredibly hard to balance what society demands of you with what your heart actually wants to do. That exact tension Raphael felt, caught between a practical corporate job and a creative soul, is exactly what gave his poetry its power and its urgency. And here is the amazing takeaway from all of this. Your daily challenges, your specific historical moment, and your own cultural background, all of these contexts are exactly what will shape your unique voice, too. Every great story is born from this exact kind of tension. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to keep those imaginary glasses on. But this time, don't look at a book, look in the mirror. Ask yourself, how is your current context, your history, your society, your personal struggles quietly writing the story of your life right now? What story is hiding just behind the surface of your everyday routine? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope you never read a book or look at your own life quite the same way again.